Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Today we're going to look at an early Lindberg kit. This is the 1953 Lindberg F-88 Voodoo, kit number 50998. It's 148 scale, possibly 142 scale. I've seen a couple references online saying that it was actually 142 scale, but the majority of these kits produced by Lindberg at the time were in 148, or as you can see on the box here, quarter scale. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it actually ended up being. So this originally was part of the first group of kits produced by Olin in 1952. Olin was the precursor to the Lindberg line company. Paul Lindberg had been making model kits or plans for stick and tissue kits in the 30s up through World War II, and post World War II. He got together with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Olson, and they started making injection molded kits. They had purchased the molds from Varney for their submarine PT-17 and I think it was an assault transport, LST, something like that. And then they continued to coming up with new molds for themselves, and then went on to become what Lindberg is known for today. So this is one of those original kits. The very first aircraft that they produced was the F-80. They also did an F-86 and then this F-88. So let's talk a little bit about the aircraft itself, the F-88. It originated from a 1946 US AAF requirement for a long-range penetration fighter to escort bombers. Basically, they were looking for a jet-propelled P-51 Mustang. The required range that was specified was 900 miles. McDonnell, who had not made very many aircraft at that point, they decided they were going to try to bid for this. So they began work in April of 1946 on their, what they called the Model 36. On the 20th of June, a contract for 2 prototypes was signed by the USAF, or USAAF at the time, and they designated it the XP-88. So they were still using the P series for pursuit. That would change to F later on when they became the U.S. Air Force. So the initial designation on it was XP-88. So the initial design that McDonnell had worked on was for V-tail with straight wings. Wind tunnel tests showed that that wasn't very stable, so they switched it to a conventional tail and swept wings. I'm sure they were incorporating some of the information that had been obtained from the Germans through Paperclip, Operation Paperclip, with a lot of the data for swept wings. So that changed the contract, and the Air Force confirmed those changes with a new order on 14 February of 47. And on July 1st of 48, it was officially changed to XF-88 Voodoo. So originally it was set to have Westinghouse J-34 engines, no radar in the nose, but 620mm M39 cannons. It was to have a pressurized cockpit and an ejection seat. And so the first flight occurred on 20th of October 1948 at Muroc Field. It was an unarmed prototype. And it was equipped with non-afterburning J-34-13 engines, which produced 3,000 pounds of thrust. It was disappointing in its performance as far as speed goes. It was only able to go 641 miles an hour, but it did have the adequate handling and range that the Air Force was looking for. But it was barely able to, or wasn't even able to go as fast as the F-86, so they were just disappointed on that speed. So McDonnell designed a afterburner to go on to that J-34 engine, and they used the J-34-22 engine to put that afterburner on, which had 3,600 pounds of thrust. And then when the afterburner was being used, it produced 48.25 pounds of thrust. So that was redesignated as the XF-88A, or I'm sorry, yeah, it was XF-88A at that point, and it was capable of going at least 700 miles an hour, so significant improvement in the speed, but it did reduce the range because of the thirstier engines. And it first flew in that configuration on 26 April of 1949. So the XF-88 was chosen out of the competition for that penetration fighter. It won out over the Lockheed XF-90 and the North American F-93. A number of people think that the Lockheed aircraft was probably the better one, but the Air Force chose the F-88. And initially we're going to order it, but along comes some changes in priorities for the Air Force, and also money. Money was shorthanded. So the XF-88 order was canceled, and that was done in August of 1950. So the first prototype ended up being modified into what was called the XF-88B, and it was going to be used for propeller research. They fitted the nose with an Allison T-38 turboprop, and they tested several different propellers on it to see, what they could get out of propellers at high speed. They're hoping to get something that could go Mach. So the highest they were able to get it in level flight was at Mach 0.9, but in a dive, it could reach Mach 1, just barely over Mach 1. And they continued testing that through 1956. Then eventually the aircraft was scrapped. In fact, both prototypes ultimately were scrapped in 1958. McDonnell did make some proposals for versions of this, with a version for the Navy, a two-seat trainer version, a recon version as well, but none of those went anywhere. Though you can see, some of the lineage of this aircraft into the Demon, that McDonnell did produce. And of course, this aircraft then eventually evolved into the F-101 Voodoo. After the cancellation in August 1950, the Korean War broke out, and the Air Force realized they didn't really have a good escort fighter for the B-29s that were getting harassed by MiG-15s at that point. So in February 51, the Air Force then put out a new requirement for an enlarged version of this aircraft, which eventually became the F-101 Voodoo, which went on to a long history. So that's a little bit about the aircraft, the subject of this kit, and let's take a look at it. As you can see on the cover here, we've got pretty colorful aircraft on here. We've got artwork is done by Ray Gadke. He did a couple of the Olin kits before Olson left, and left it all to Lindberg, and then Ray Gadke did the vast majority of the 50s, 60s box arts for Lindberg. So he's got a real distinct style, very clean, slick kind of look, a lot of dramatic angles to the aircraft, and this is no exception to that. So we've got authentic construction plastic airplane kit, quarter scale by Paul Lindberg, and 31 parts in the kit. And you notice it just has F-88 instead of the XF-88. So that was after the aircraft had been canceled, so there was not going to be any F-88. So it's interesting they're still using that instead of the XF. So on the side here, we've got the original Lindberg logo, the round logo with the script. And for best results, they used Lindberg plastic cements and a little bit more information about Lindberg. Opposite side, we've got the aircraft name in big bold red letters, a couple more of the round Lindberg logos. The box end, got another round Lindberg logo, Kit number 509 with the 98. So this is suggested retail of 98 cents. And on this end, similar. Yeah, we got another price tag stuck on here from somewhere in the kit's history. This is a hard box with the lithograph glued on top of it. It's a fairly standard size box that Lindberg used for a number of their 50s kits. Here we have the instruction sheet, and this is what's kind of interesting with this kit. This must have been a real early one from Lindberg's production, because this is the Olin instruction sheet, but it's done in this kind of purplish, like mimeographed way, and it's a very tightly cut down version of the Olin instructions. And the Olin was up here, the Olin logo was up here, and has now been replaced by the Lindberg logo. So the other thing that you'll notice too is that the decals that are being shown here are different from the decals that are the markings that are on the box, and also the decals that are included. These are the original markings that came with the Olin kit, and in fact it has the 6525, which was the serial number for the first prototype. So the Olin kit was a little bit more closer to the original aircraft as opposed to what Lindberg did with it later on. So you can see it's a fairly simple kit, just an exploded view with little arrows pointing to stuff to put together. Your decaling is all done. Everything's all just in this one little image. So it talks about trimming off your flash, add weight to the nose if you want to sit on the nose wheel, how to do decals, apply shellac or varnish after. If you're going to be painting it, use enamels, don't use lacquer, even though you're using shellac. Shellac, I'm sorry, not lacquer here. Apply Olin cement. So they forgot to change that part. But you can see it's a fairly simple kit. It's possible that the first issue, because I did find an image of the Olin kit that's supposedly incomplete in the original box for the first issue of the Olin, and it did not appear to have any landing gear on it. So it's possible that may have been added later in the Olin production and then was carried over with Lindberg. And then Lindberg, for the next issue of this kit, really modified this extensively, made movable control surfaces, added a lot more to it than was part of this original kit. So kind of a interesting transitional thing going on with this kit here. And so here we have the decals that are included, these really colorful stripes, and the F-88 for the nose. That's pretty similar to what was on the actual original aircraft, except it said F-88. And no serial number on this one, and these markings, never existed as far as I could tell on any photograph that I found on the F-88. So this was kind of a fantasy artwork, having this yellow tail with these red speed stripes on the nose. So it certainly pumped it up to sell the kit more, but not very accurate in a change from the original Olin issue. So now let's look at the kit. You can see it's a pretty large kit that just barely fits in the box. In fact, a little bit of the tail here is kind of broken off from moving around inside here. So it's just barely fits inside here. But you can see it's a really smooth surface, not much detail at all. Some raised lines to represent the gun ports. You've got actually these are engraved lines for the rudder and trim tabs. It's very simplistic. Here's the other half, fairly large stub on there from the molded tree. And something else that I noticed on it too is there are no locator pins at all on here. So you just have to line it up yourself with some tube glue and hopefully not get fingerprints on it. So that's a pretty big fat plane. That's a nice shiny silver plastic. So there's our fuselage. Let's take a look at our wings. So we do have the intakes represented there. A little bit of flash around there as well. We've got engraved control surfaces, engraved leading edge slats. We do have a fence. And nothing representing the gear area other than just a pin to stick the gear into. So not even an outline of the gear doors. So there's your wing. There's our other wing there. And we'll take a look at this tree. So we've got our tail surfaces, engraved lines. And there's our wheels that are on this tree. Wheels actually have pretty nice spoking on there. Wheels don't look too bad, actually. There's our nose probe that so many of these 50s kits seem to have nose probes on them. Here's our landing gear. There's our doors. Like one of the wing strut, nose strut, oleo for the nose strut. And then we've got drop tanks. And I think the drop tanks were also added with this version of the kit, because I did not notice them in the previous Olin kit. So I think these may have been added. Let's see, got those. And here's the other gear, landing gear. Get that in focus. I think that's a gear door. We got a canopy, really thick. A lot of kind of crazing, in it. So not the clearest thing, kind of flat. It's very kind of lumpy almost. So for real early clear plastic, I guess probably not too bad. And the fact you got a good clear plastic canopy. It does have raised frame lines on here. So there's that. Then we got their pilot figure. And he's pretty heavy with some flash too. Fairly simple. They use this guy in a lot of their kits as well. And he was supposed to sit on, this is a piece, this would go inside the fuselage, and this guy would just sit on this little bench. So not much for interior detail. And here's the stand. And we've got the name of the aircraft on here. And so I'll go on there. There you go. So that's it. Not much to it. But if you wanted to make an F-88, this was pretty much the only kit forever. So, pretty sure there's been some new ones made since then. But for probably 50 years, if you wanted to make an F-88, this was it. So as I mentioned before, the kit originated as an Olin kit in 1952. And then this particular issue from Lindberg in 53. There was a revised version that came out in 1959 that had new box art from Gadke. And then it kind of disappeared for quite a while. It came back out in 86 as part of Lindberg's classic series that had a photo of a built-up model on the box art, or on the box. And then finally in 2013 there was another reissue of it as part of their Firepower series, which also included a new photo of a built kit. So that's about it for this guy. Interesting plane, interesting kit. Hope you enjoyed seeing this. If you built one of these guys, tell us about it in the comment section. And of course, as always, if you got one of these sitting on your shelf, take some pictures of it, send it in for the next viewer build video. Well, hope you have yourself a great rest of your day.